myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Well, good morning. Welcome to NUFC Matters. As one Prime Minister departs, another Prime Minister arrives. WhatsApp crashes again. Newcastle United seem to be the only constant in our lives, Ross, as another win keeps the momentum going and puts Newcastle United into the heady heights of a top 4 place, Champions League place, dare I add, somewhere where we haven't troubled since those late days of Keegan and Sir Bobby Robson. It's an amazing time to be a Newcastle fan at the minute, Ross.
Morning, Steve. Morning, everyone. Yeah, it certainly is. We were just saying there, Steve, weren't we, just before we came on air, that you keep, as a Newcastle fan, I think you're programmed to kind of expect the worst almost. So you know, we go into each game thinking, is this the one where the wheels are going to fall off, or is this the one where the bubble's going to burst, or is you know, how long can this run go? And it can't seriously keep going too much further. But let's enjoy it while it lasts. Up to 4th after a fantastic result and very, very solid, very good team performance against Spurs on Sunday, following on from a hard fought, proper battling performance against Everton in midweek as well. So look, it's fantastic. I don't think anybody quite expected the progress to be as swift and as good and as quick over the last few weeks, over the last couple of months. But fair play to Eddie Howe and his players. They've producing stellar performances week in, week out, and yeah, the heady heights of 4th. Let's see how long it can continue.
Yeah, I mean, just looking back at the particular game in question, Callum Wilson obviously getting the first goal, and what Lloris was doing, I really don't know, coming charging off his line and you know, almost trying to body check him, realising what he'd done, and then, you know, attempting to feign injury was pathetic, you know, in the grand scheme of things. The second goal is just a man on fire at the minute. Miguel Miron, he's literally found his form and now turned that form into goals as well. And, you know, it's just a pleasure to watch Miguel Miron play when he's got an end result.
It is. The first goal I thought was, I don't think the referee had a particularly great game, but I thought he got a couple of big decisions spot on, and that was one that he got spot on. Now, if he had blown for a foul on that, and Callum Wilson had put the ball in the back of the net, and the referee had disallowed it, it would have gone to VAR still, and VAR would have ruled it out, because I think they would have stuck with the referee's decision on the day. Referee had a great view of it. Lloris is always prone to a clanger. I think he's one of those keepers where he's either, you know, he's very, very good, obviously World Cup winner, but he's got clangers in him. I don't think he's a keeper that Tottenham can afford to keep a hold of, for keep in there as their number one for a whole lot longer if they want to progress and challenge for silverware and trophies. But fair play to Callum Wilson. It was he kept his cool. It was an outstanding finish. And then Miguel Miron, he's on fire at the minute, isn't he? He wouldn't have scored that goal last season. There's no chance he would have scored that goal last season, I don't think. His confidence is up. As soon as he got that ball, there was one thing in his mind. It was pace, go to man, beat the man. And then he didn't even look for the pullback. He just wanted to slide that ball towards the far corner. Again, I think Lloris could have done a bit better, but fair play to Miggy for having the confidence and the ability to take that on and slide it underneath him and put Newcastle into a commanding 2-0 lead, which they probably on the balance of play just about deserved at half time. I thought Spurs had looked sharp at the start. I thought Harry Kane and Son were going to cause all sorts of problems like they did there last season. Son, obviously, I think probably should have opened the scoring early on. Good save from Nick Pope, and then cleared by Kieran Trippier as the ball kind of rolled towards the line. But after that, a few tactical tweaks from Eddie Howe and his coaching team, and Newcastle seemed to get the grips a bit better with Kane's movement, with Son's movement, and dominated certainly the rest of that first half, and the majority of the game as well.
Yeah, comment there from Dan saying Wilson's arm was questionable, but it's still chest to chest, so he doesn't hold him off with it. And let's face it, Dan and Ross, it would have been very easy for Callum Wilson to go down like a sack of spuds there and try to get Lloris sent off. Credit to him for staying on his feet and taking the chance.
Absolutely. I think it was really clever play by Callum Wilson. He had nowhere to go. I appreciate what Dan's saying there. The arm did come out slightly, but that's just momentum as much as anything else. If we're being honest, we've seen goals or incidents like that where it's gone in the keeper's favour, and the keepers get protected a bit more, and the way the refereeing is in the Premier League at the minute, the way the officiating is, where VAR is, you wouldn't be surprised if there's a similar situation in 2 or 3 weeks' time in another game, and a goal gets ruled out, or the keeper gets the foul, because it's that inconsistent. But look, Newcastle got whether it's the rub of the green or the right decision or whatever. I thought it was a fine goal. I thought there was nothing wrong with it. But I do see on another day that getting ruled out by a different official, by a different referee, by a different VAR official. So, but yeah, great finish on his left peg. Just lifted it over Lloris and over Eric Dyer, who was tracking back into the net. And the thing that just winds me up about VAR still is that you celebrate, but you can't celebrate. I'm watching the game and I'm get it, and then you have to pause yourself because you think this is you've got to wait another 2 or 3 minutes before you can properly fist pump the air, because it takes that long for the checks to be made. But I thought the goal was fine. Yeah,
me too. Ben Foster did go wild on Twitter about it. It was certainly the goalkeepers union in full flow, Dan. And we will come on to Villa, Stu. He says, I hope we smash Villa. I just can't stand that lifting club. Yeah, there's quite a few people who have that kind of feeling towards Villa. We did put a shout out on Twitter. We only got the one question overnight. Anything about Mikel Merino returning to our club? Asked Andrew.
Not one that I've heard, to be honest. I think that ship's probably sailed. I thought he was a good turn when he was here, albeit briefly. I've not heard him being mentioned in terms of returning to the club. Maybe there's something that other people have heard, but not one that's kind of crossed my desk at all.
Nah, me neither. I've not heard that, but there has been a few rumours flying around. Okay, well, we will come to your chats, seeing as we're asking about players. This one from John Hackett. He says, good morning, lads. Any truth in the links with Angelo Gabriel from Santos? It's good that we seem to be trying to get the world's best youngsters into the place. He is, I think it's the same guy. He's a right winger, and he's a Brazil under 17, 17 years of age. Yeah, that's the fella. Appearances 22, goals 1, assists 5, yellow cards 5. Quite a temperamental young chap in the Serie A stats there. But another youngster, any news on that? His current market value, according to Transfer Market, is 9.9 million.
Yeah, so that's definitely interesting in Angelo. He's the one. I think, I don't know if you remember, to the summer I did a piece for the Express on Angelo and Newcastle being interested in him. It was back in start of July, I think it was. Steve Nixon had been over to Brazil, and he's monitored this player closely. He reports over in Brazil suggested that he'd gone over to try and get a little bit closer to Angelo's parents and representatives to try and work the deal. There was reports this morning that they've put a bid in for 18 million, and that's been knocked back by Santos, who were looking for a little bit more. But it's a market that Newcastle are very, very keen on exploring. We know that they're trying to get good, talented young players in. They've done that over the last couple of months, not just kind of strengthening the first team, but trying to strengthen that layer below and bring in players who've got a lot of potential, the best kind of young players from around the world. Angelo's massively rated in South America, in Brazil. He's been hailed as the new Neymar. Everybody gets hailed as the new something or other. So you take everything with a bit of pinch of salt. But 17 years old still. He's not 18 until next month, I don't think. I don't think he can move until he's 18 anyhow because of the kind of the FIFA regulations at the minute. But I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle go in with a bid and try to prize him potentially in January. He's somebody that they are very, very keen on. They have watched significantly. There's a lot of competition for him. He made his Copa Libertadores debut, I think, at 16. So he's been around now for a couple of seasons and is gaining a big reputation on the world stage. So yeah, hopefully another one that maybe with the Bruno and the Joe Linton kind of link up, bringing in another highly rated young Brazilian into the club. It sounds like that's the kind of scouting team are looking at. There's a couple over in South America that they're looking at, but Angelo's definitely one.
Yeah, morning lads. What happened to the talk of the scouts over in Brazil watching Barbosa? I think the scouts are busy, Scott, 100%. They are looking at every single option. The one thing we've got now is great strength and depth behind the scenes, in all different departments. And we've got the creme de la creme, I think, as far as going out and sourcing players is concerned. And for all the criticism we gave Steve Nixon under the days of Ashley, you can't fault the guy. And he was right with Joe Linton. As well. Ultimately, it was just that we had a manager playing them in the wrong position. So have faith, Scott. I think we will bring in the right players, in due course. And we're certainly building up a fine academy of youngsters who, if they're good enough, will be coming into a team and a squad which, is knows what they're doing, which is fantastic. Brian, that's a great bet, by the way. He says, I backed Miggy to get 10 goals and 10 assists. That's 100-1. You should get some money back on that, mate. I do think. A lot of questions coming in about Villa. We'll come to that towards the end of the programme. I will come to this now because this is something that was doing the rounds on the Monday Club last night. If you haven't watched it, watch it back. Cracking show with quite a few of our fans forum jumping on and having their say last night. Do you think the World Cup helps us? It means most games are played after December and any January acquisitions can play their part. On the flip side, Roger says, do you think our winter training session will affect our momentum? Now, this is interesting. It's a World Cup break. It's affecting us all, is my mindset. Every club is going to be having a rest. Some players going to the World Cup may come back injured with different teams. It's going to be a big change. And I guess as well, it's also a chance to see what kind of effect a winter break has. We've talked about having a winter break here for many, many years now in the Premier League. Hasn't transpired yet, but is it a good thing or a bad thing that we're having a winter break, Ross?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't want to sit on the fence here, but I'm really kind of uncertain about how this is all going to pan out. And David Moyes, I don't know if you watched the game last night. David Moyes was asked about it after West Ham's game last night, and he made a similar kind of point. He said, "This is completely new. We've never experienced anything like this before. So we trying to figure out what's going to happen, whether it's going to be good, whether it's going to be bad. It's all a little bit conjecture at the minute. For Eddie Howe and for the team, they're obviously going away and going to do a bit of a training camp in Saudi. Is that the right thing to do? Is playing friendlies right? When do you play your friendlies? Do you give the team a week off first, or 10 days off, and then do you get back in and start playing friendlies? What do you do? Do you treat it like a mini pre-season? It's going to be interesting to see how different clubs approach it. Whether clubs will just keep players taking over, whether they'll arrange 2 or 3 friendlies, whether they'll go away warm weather training. It's all new to every coach, to every manager, to every player. So trying to kind of second guess what's going to happen and what the outcome is going to be is difficult. What I will say from a Newcastle perspective is that Newcastle will have less players going away to the World Cup than some teams. It may be an opportunity to get 1 or 2 back fit. You see Maximums, Isaacs, and maybe get a few more minutes under a few other belts like your John Joe Shelby's and so on and so forth. It might be a chance to rest a couple who've got knocks. what Eddie Howe has done over the last couple of weeks, when I've expected him to rotate the team a little bit and to rest one or two players, and I think most people have probably expected that certainly over this week, is to rotate and rest a few players. He hasn't. He's kept pretty much the same team, playing at a kind of with a real intensity, with a real kind of high pressure, high pressing, full on kind of style. I think he's got that in the back of his mind, that he thinks, right, we just got 3 or 4 more games now. Get these players through 3 or 4 more games, and then they can have a rest. I think if this break wasn't coming up, he would have probably rotated a little bit more over the last week or two. But he's obviously, for me, he's looking at it thinking 3 more Premier League games plus the cup game. Let's get through this, and then the players have got most a month off. So yeah, it's interesting in terms of January. You know, you'll have a lot of players coming in January across the leagues who'll be able to play a lot more games. You know, kind of after the World Cup's finished. For Newcastle, I'll be honest, I don't see Newcastle spending or bringing in loads of players in January. I think there might be 1 or 2 additions, but I don't see it being another 5 or 6 like what happened in January gone. But yeah, it'll just be interesting to see how it all pans out, because this is uncharted territory for us all. Nobody's seen this before, and none of the players, managers, coaches, or clubs have experienced it before. So it'll be interesting to see how what each team does and how they all try to cope with the new regulations.
It will be me, yeah, 100%. Richard Keys. Once again, just likes to be relevant. He's stopped criticising Newcastle as much as he used to, bizarrely. He's now suggesting that we move our training base, lock, stock and 2 smoking barrels, excuse the pun, down to London, because it'll make it easier for Newcastle to attract better players. Ross, thoughts on that?
He's just put his clown shoes back on again, hasn't he? He can't help himself. He's this bloke. I try not to get wound up by Richard Keys. I really do try not to get wound up, but at times I find that I can't help myself. From Richard Keys has got absolutely no clue about Newcastle, about what the club is trying to achieve, what the club is trying to do. He's criticised the club constantly over the various different things, whether it was from Rafa, from this, from that, whatever it is, he's trying to criticise. He's not going to criticise the ownership now for obvious reasons, I don't think. And he's looking now just to like you say, try to stay relevant. On the point itself, look, this has been mooted before. This isn't the first time somebody's some idiot with no clue about the club and about the region and about football as a whole has suggested, you know, either Newcastle or Sunderland. It was mentioned with Sunderland move the training ground down to London or down to the south so they can attract better players. Blah 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 blah. That's not what football is about. For Newcastle, it is the football club is an intrinsic part of the community. It is an intrinsic part of the city and of the region. You want your players to buy into that region. You want your players to buy into the community, to buy into the city, like what the many of the players who have come up have done. You know, Bruno Lopia, you know, and he's bought into the whole kind of Geordie ethos, whatever you want to call it. He's bought into that, as has Eddie Howe, as has the owners. That's saying out if then you say, right, we're taking the club and we're taking the training ground down into the south, down to London, just so we can attract better players. If players want to come to Newcastle, they will come to Newcastle regardless. We're not stuck in Alaska or you know, out on the moon. It's 45 minutes right. It's ridiculous. It's just complete clown stuff that Keys keeps coming out with. He's got no idea about the region. About, you know, I read him saying about the restaurants, about the nightlife, all that sort of stuff. You know, we've got some of the best restaurants in the country in the northeast. We've got some of the best bars and clubs, theatres, places to go on the Northumberland coastline. the city itself. It's a vibrant, attractive place to live for everybody. And so for somebody like him, he's just trying to stick his oar in, and I'm trying to kind of bring this rant to an end without saying something I shouldn't do. But yeah, I think hopefully you've got my feelings loud and clear on that one.
Yeah, fair enough. Ross, your internet is suffering a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the ads while you sort it out, and we'll bring you back after the break. A big thanks to all our sponsors, starting with Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals. You can find them at 304 Old Durham Road on Gateshead. Telephone 0191 478 273 or email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or the website darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. Their website is thegohd.com. And thanks to 3 Property Investments, who specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the Northeast. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give the guys a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk should you be interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. You can order them by going to the website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by calling 01768 210 102. Thanks to the guys at Blowhole Brewery. You can find them at blowholebrewery.co.uk. Got a vast range of beers. They're a new brewery company, and their cans are suitably addressed like the Geordie Juice here in the strips of Newcastle United from the 90s. Big thank you to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things, and to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website. If you want to subscribe, then hit the subscription button. If you want to hit the likes, then hit the thumb up, and please share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify, and the rest goes up 24 hours after the show has finished. If you want to join, well, you can click join underneath the video and become a member for a small fee. If you want to pay the £25 fee and get a cup, a pen, a scarf, a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw, then go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or use your smartphone on the QR code, which will take you straight there. We also give you a free car sticker. If you're a subscriber, simply email john@nufcmatters.com to claim your free car window sticker today. We also support the food bank on here. NUFC fans foodbank.co.uk is where you can find the match day bucket and make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. We still do a lot of events in and around the region. If you want to see Super Mac pre-match and after-match, you can go to the Dog and Parrot in Newcastle and hear Malcolm give his views on the game and listen to what he has to say about his career as well. Always a great afternoon. Kids are welcome. Good food, good beer. And get yourself into Pumphrey's. You can always see John Anderson and John Gibson in there pre-match on the Cloth Market in Newcastle. A couple of events coming up in 2023, an evening with Peter Beardsley, Friday the 10th of February at St Dom's Catholic Club. You can get the tickets direct from the venue. And Peter Beardsley is also at the Tyneside Irish Centre on Friday, February the 17th. Tickets available from Woucher for that one. Get yourself on the Woucher, make a cracking Christmas present for any Newcastle fan. Also, an evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford, Friday the 2nd of June, 2023 at the Grand Hotel in Gosforth. Tickets for that are available from www.healandtour.org.uk/events. And if you fancy a Christmas jumper, get the Bruno Christmas jumper from nufcmatters.com. Ross, you're back and we can see you and hopefully we can hear you. Good stuff. Internet.
Testing.
You're
1,
fine,
2, 3.
You're fine. Mr. Anderson says, did you see the Chronicle post from yesterday posting that the Labour MP will not be travelling to the World Cup due to Saudi Arabia's awful human rights? Mr. Anderson, it was actually Qatar, and it was actually not just any old MP. It was Keir Starmer. And yes, I did see it. And yeah, he was having a pop at Qatar and the human rights. He said none of his colleagues will be in attendance for this year's tournament in the Middle East. So yeah, look, I mean, it's his choice whether he goes or not. I've got to be honest, I wasn't aware that Keir Starmer was a big football fan, and my mindset on all of that, and I'm not going to get Ross drawn into it, is essentially that maybe MP should be concentrating on getting things right at home. And I know that Labour aren't in government at the minute, but certainly putting the pressure on those who are in power might be a little bit more constructive time-wise over these next couple of months, while we're all sitting at home suffering with our bills going up on the food front, on the fuel front, and everything else. So enough said on that. I think the better. We're all sick of it, and this hour is usually to get away from the news. Okay, next question from Dan. He says, hypothetically, we have everyone fit and managed to get Kual's visa sorted. Where do we finish? Where do you think we'll finish this season, Ross? Because it's very easy. I was saying this to Joe last night. Very easy to get carried away, and ultimately, we've just said at the top of the program, just got to enjoy it, because we've been through the doldrums for a club of our size for the last 14 years. I mean, I often don't like to say that we've been struggling or we've been through a horrendous time, because we haven't been relegated to the third tier or the fourth tier. We haven't gone out of business. Like, we've lost so many clubs. So Newcastle going through a bad time is basically meant dropping down, being relegated, and getting promoted back. So we've had some good times. We've been promoted a couple of times. We've had Rafa Benitez as manager, which provided some exciting games. We had Alan Pardew, who was derised by fans when he arrived, was celebrated by fans when he got his European football, and eventually was pushed out by supporters, eventually. So, look, in a nutshell, for me, Dan's question is one where you can see it's been fueled by the recent results. There's an optimism there. And we get Isak back and we get ASM back in the next couple of, the next few weeks after the World Cup finishes, maybe another acquisition or two. Where could Newcastle realistically finish? Is top four reachable, or are you still thinking top 8 and a good run in the cups?
Yeah, I'm still thinking top 8. A good run in the cups. I think that would be an outstanding finish for Newcastle. It's about slow progress for me. I understand the clubs in the recent results have given everybody a bit of excitement, a bit of a push, a bit of positivity and hope for the future. And I've been reading articles recently on Newcastle as a top 4 challenger, all that sort of stuff. I think that's a little bit too premature for me this season. Certainly, I think for me, we've seen over the last couple of 3 years, we've seen that clubs can challenge for the top 4. Your Leicesters and your West Hams and a couple of others sporadically, but come the end of the season, when it's a long old season, once you're hitting April and May time, the clubs with the biggest squads and the best quality will kind of always kind of push through. That's just the nature of the beast. Yes, I know these clubs of Leicester and West Ham have got into Europe, and I think that's an achievable aim for Newcastle. I think top 8, top 7 is certainly not beyond the realms of possibility, even with a couple of additions in January as well. But you look at the power and the size and the strength and depth of the clubs at the top end. Your Man Cities, your Liverpools, your Man Uniteds. Man United are improving, and I think will continue to improve under Ten Hag. Liverpool will come back strong. I think they're too good a team, and they've got too good a manager not to come back. Arsenal and Man City look comfortable. Chelsea have got a massive squad and massive strength and depth. So breaking into that top 5 or top 6 is going to be very, very difficult. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, but for me, a great season would be a top 8 finish and maybe a good run in either the League Cup or the FA Cup.
Yeah, interesting question that cropped up on the Monday Club last night was: would you take finishing 4th in the Premier League, Ross, or finishing 10th and winning the Carabao Cup?
10th in the Carabao Cup.
Because it's a trophy.
Yeah. And I appreciate that will be different for different fans and different different age groups and different people. I've seen Newcastle play in the Champions League. Been fortunate enough to see Newcastle play in the Champions League. I've been following Newcastle now for 40 years, and I've not seen them win a trophy. So that's what's missing for me. I would take them finishing 10th and winning a trophy every day of the week.
Yeah, me too. Scott says, Ross, do you think results are being overlooked by the pundits, saying that anyone we beat are just playing badly rather than us playing good football? And I guess the question has been prompted by, the coverage of the Spurs game at the weekend. It's the most recent game. But yeah, a lot of people said Spurs weren't at the races, didn't play well. There was a lack of, praise for Newcastle. I mean, we saw, I've watched the game back on Sky, and we had this a monumental U-turn by Carragher, who in the first half was, waxing lyrical about how good Spurs are, and Newcastle, wouldn't give Newcastle any praise. But fair play to him, he called it how he watched it, and eventually turned around and said this Newcastle team are doing well. They're good at the high press, and they're going to be difficult to beat.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I watched the game on Sunday myself. As I said earlier, I thought the first 10-15 minutes I was a little bit nervy. I thought Kane and Son were picking up some really good positions, and Spurs looked a real threat on the break. I do understand the question of our teams playing poorly or Newcastle playing well. Spurs were fairly average, to be honest, on Sunday. They were a lot poorer than what I thought they were going to be. But I do think a lot of that is down to the way Newcastle are playing, the way Newcastle are pressing and positioning themselves and putting teams under pressure. Not letting them get into their natural game. We're not sitting back and just letting teams play around us and get into their stride. Teams are playing poorly because Newcastle are making them play poorly. With Newcastle are putting them under severe pressure in key areas, key parts of the pitch, and that's not letting them settle. Once the tactical tweaks were made after 10-15 minutes or so, and Newcastle got to grips a little bit better with Spurs' style of play and what they were trying to do with Kane and Son, then they looked a lot better, and Spurs looked a poorer team as a result. So I think it's probably a combination of both. I do think you have to play teams at the right time sometimes, and Everton in midweek was another example where Everton weren't particularly great, but Newcastle were just solid and professional and did a job on them. So I think it's a combination of both. I do think Newcastle are playing very, very well at the minute, and they're making teams look poor. And that's down to the coaching and the tactics of Eddie Howe.
Alan Thompson says, Ross, I thought Kane was outstanding as a midfielder. I've got to be honest, I don't understand why Conte is doing this. I mean, the difference between Harry Kane and, say, Alan Shearer when Bobby Robson came in was, he was struggling for pace. His pace wasn't great after the injuries he'd suffered. Plus, he was getting older. Bobby Robson came in and just made this minor change to the way that he, played. And Shearer went on to, as we know, break the record and set the standard in the Premier League. But Harry Kane being dropped deeper, I just think it takes a lot away from Tottenham. Yes, he got his goal. It was a scrappy goal at the back post from a set piece. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, he does play well there, but I don't think they're playing into his strengths.
No, I'm a massive Harry Kane fan. I'm not shy of admitting that. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's probably the best number 10 that England have got, but he's also the best number 9 that England have got, if that makes sense. I think he can do that job where he drops in and he can play up that top. Ultimately, if I was a Spurs fan or when he plays for England, I want to see him in the box. I want to see him in the box scoring goals. I want to see him getting on the end of these chances rather than kind of creating them himself. So yeah, he pulled the strings. If you remember back last season when Newcastle got battered 5-1, I think it was in the end down at Spurs, and Kane was the architect of that. He was comfortably man of the match, but he didn't score, but he was pulling the strings in that kind of deeper role. So sometimes it can work for Spurs, but I agree with you, Steve. I'd rather see him right at the top end in the box, finishing the chances off rather than creating them. But that's maybe where Spurs are. They don't have that necessarily that creative player who can link the play up unless it's Kane.
Top of the form table, BT. You're right. It's amazing, really, to see that. It'd be better in a tune top, Ross, says Roger. He would be, yeah. Breaking Shearer's record in a tune top. I don't think the only person who wouldn't be happy is Alan. The question about the Carabao Cup, you qualify for the Europa Conference League, is the post that I put in the chat. So there you go. World Cup's on the horizon. Tom Dixon wants to know if Dan Burn should be given a chance in the England squad to go to the World Cup. Again, on the commentary of the match of the weekend, I heard people, it might not have been Newcastle's game, might have been the Arsenal game. I'm not so sure, but they were talking about centre-halves and England centre-halves. Dan Burn, completely overlooked by the so-called experts. Probably he's playing left-back at the moment, so maybe they don't see him as a centre-half. But, yeah, I mean, they were waxing lyrical about Harry Maguire, about John Stones. For me, we have... the best back four in the Premier League. And, we have Trippier obviously on international duty on a regular basis. Dan Burn, is he likely to get a call up? I don't think so.
No, I don't think he'll get a call up. I don't think he will. I think the squad's fairly nailed on. I would have thought bar injuries and everything else like that. And Dan Burn's been not been included in any provisional squads or any squads so far. I don't see there being any bolters, anybody coming out from the cold massively and getting in. So he won't make the squad. He absolutely won't make the squad. Should he make the squad? I don't know. He's had a good season. There's players who are playing a lot worse who will be in that England squad, I suppose you can say. What I would say is it's also stepping up levels. International football's a big jump again. From a purely selfish point of view, I wouldn't really want him to go to the World Cup. I'd rather as many Newcastle players stay away from there, get themselves rested, work on the tactics, have a bit of a breather and work with Eddie Howe and the rest of the coaching staff so that when the Premier League does resume, they're fit and raring and refreshed and ready to go.
Did we dodge a bullet with Emery? His qualities are probably more suited to Villa. Unai Emery going to be unveiled as the Villa manager by the sounds of it. He was courted by Newcastle, seemed to be the first choice. But, I'm happy with Howe. It's easy to say that now, I guess. But, I certainly wasn't one pushing for Emery when Newcastle were looking at him.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. And what's happened is Eddie Howe has got the job and taken it on and done fantastically well. You don't know how Unai Emery would have done if he'd got the job, which he was the front runner at one point. Decided against it. For what it's worth, my opinion is that he's a fantastic manager. He's done a excellent job pretty much everywhere he's gone. If you look at his record in Europe and his record in kind of the European competitions and getting teams qualified, he took teams to took Villarreal to the Champions League semi-finals last year. He's won the Europa Cup 4 times. He's the kind of one blot on his coaching kind of CV, I suppose, slightly is Arsenal. And if because he took over from Wenger. It's a very, very difficult job to take over. When a manager like Wenger or Sir Alex Ferguson or whoever who's been in the club for a long period of time and had a lot of success takes over. So I think he still got them fourth and into a Europa Cup final at Arsenal. It was considered a bit of a failure, but I think he's a fantastic manager. I think you never can tell, but I think he's the perfect fit for Villa right now.
Yeah, I would agree, mate. We dodged a bullet. He didn't want to come here at the end of the day. We have dodged a bullet, I think is the answer to that question. L. Stapleton says, it's funny that he declined due to a poorly run club, but the way Villa sacked Gerrard doesn't scream professionalism to me. BT says, Unai Emery are not taking over till next week. Tuesday, the 1st of November, when his work permit will be sorted. Dan says, we've got the best manager. Alan says, Ross, do you think Newcastle fans are now being vilified by Man United, Liverpool, Spurs fans for time wasting? Surely in my 50 years of watching football, it's went on. Even Sky commentators were mentioning this. Yeah, it's as if time wasting has suddenly become something new, only because we've learned how to do it.
Yeah, it's been going on since football was invented. It's it's always the case. Newcastle are just being professional. You know, they're just running the clock down like other clubs would do, like other clubs have done. It's not everybody's taste, but when it's your club that's doing it, you know, it's fine. When it's against your club, it's not fine. And there'll be games where clubs will be trying to run the clock down and time waste against Newcastle in future. I'm 100% certain of that. And you just have to accept that it's part of the game. We're doing it pretty well at the minute. Eddie Howe's, for all he's got the team playing some good football. He's quite pragmatic. He's got the team, you know, they'll commit niggly fouls on the halfway line to stop breaks. They'll pick up yellow cards to disrupt the opposition, and they'll do that in the closing stages of the game to try and run the clock down as well. It's not pretty at times. I'll be honest. If it was, like I say, if it was against my team, I'd be a little bit frustrated and fuming, I suppose. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, and God, don't we love it? It's nice to get our own back. Yeah, but Liverpool did exactly the same against Man City. Had another 8 minutes extra time, but didn't complain. And Mr. Anderson says it's up to the referee to stop time wasting. Blame them. Yeah, it's sour grapes on behalf of a lot of these other fans clubs. It really, really is. And for me, you just look at it and just think, well, you know, c'est la vie, you know, we've gotten to this position and it's absolutely fantastic. Sky didn't say to David Moyes, do you think you'll be back to last season's form as you spent a lot of money in the summer like they did in Bad Taste? Asking how. It's a ridiculous question. There are a lot of ridiculous questions being asked by the media. And Richard Keys has obviously been one of the main irritants for Newcastle United fans. What does Ross think of his comments? I mean, he's mentioned it earlier, but I guess you can reiterate it, Ross. That Richard Keys, you try not to bite at him. And I mean, I guess the same can be said for Simon Jordan. You know, I mean, he was another one who loved to wind Newcastle fans up. But I guess in the changing world of media, and rather than concentrating on individuals, Ross, let's look at the changing world of media. Try to give our viewers a little bit of understanding of what it means. You started off, you know, as a journalist with newspapers, and newspapers probably when you started, and we've known each other a long time. We're at big sales, and you know the hard copy of a newspaper, which used to drop through your letterbox each day, each morning, each night. You know, your red top in the morning, your Chronicle at night. Those days have gone. Times have moved on, and it's now become the digital age. You know, we've progressed into online content. So, you know, from your point of view, I guess the pressure, Ross, is on you and your colleagues at work to try and, you know, make something eye-grabbing to pull people in, which back in the day, a headline on the front of a newspaper would attract you to buy the newspaper, or a photograph of a A-list celebrity coming out of a car, or the story linking Newcastle United to a big signing in the next transfer window would make you want to go and buy the newspaper. So we've progressed now digitally, haven't we? Now it's all about that one line which is going to make that person click.
It is. It's a different world. Look, I've been in journalism in the media now for 25 years or so, and what it looked like when I got in and what it looks like now are very, 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 very different. You're right. It's it's a lot of online journalism is about trying to attract attention, trying to get people onto websites and to stay on sites and navigate around them. A lot of it's driven by social media, so it's driven by viral video clips or by comments. You know, Talk Sport if they've got their model, which is again, it's about kind of controversy, and not controversy, but black and white opinions. And journalism has become very opinionated these days. Again, when I got back in, there wasn't as much opinion, I don't think, within the media when I first started. So I was always told that you had to kind of stay as neutral as what you possibly could, and you had to kind of play the game, if you like, and not necessarily show your true colours or show your colours or show favouritism. You You had to be balanced and very much kind of straight down the middle. Journalism's changed because social media is changed, because society has changed. You know, there's a lot more now. There's a lot more polarizing opinions, whether on social and elsewhere. You don't seem to be able to have a balanced opinion these days. You've got to be one thing or the other. You've got to be either firmly to the left or firmly to the right. You can't take that central ground, it seems. And some of journalism, some of the media stuff kind of reflects that now and has to reflect that. What I would say from my perspective in the role that I'm in now in journalism is that what my role now is somebody who oversees and looks at it kind of from a wider picture, is that we want loyalty, we want loyal readers, we want loyal subscribers, similar to what you've got, Steve, with the platform that you've got here. You've got subscribers who subscribe to your channels and they're loyal to the brand and to the shows that you and the rest of the guys put on. And that's the same with any kind of media outlet. I think what you want is you want to be trusted. You want to have a loyal readership. You want people who will keep coming back, not just come back for one click, for one headline, for one piece. You've got to establish a brand that people trust and know what they're going to get when they come to you, and they know that it's not going to be over sensationalized like some of the stuff that we read elsewhere. And that's ultimately the key. But there's so many polarizing opinions now in journalism and in media, and a lot of it is about grabbing that attention. When I started, Steve, as you know, I started with the likes of the Gateshead Post and then the Sunday Sun and the Chronicle and so on and so forth. There wasn't that big focus on journalism. You didn't have as many podcasts, you didn't have as many fan shows, you didn't have fan websites or all these many media platforms that you've got now where people can have their say. So it's a lot more competitive market these days than what it is. And clubs like Newcastle will attract headlines, will attract people to read the stuff, because it's a passionate fan base. It's a big club, and people sometimes will use that as a vehicle to piggyback off on the back of, just to try and generate a little bit of interest. That's kind of where it is, where your Richard Keys and your Simon Jordans and people like that. They know that talking about Newcastle will attract attention. They know that it will get a response. It'll get people talking, and it's only going to continue the more that the club grows and the more success the club has.
There's no doubt about that, and it's good to get an insight into journalism, from you, Ross. As just for people who watch, because I think some people just don't understand it. R.I.P. the paper round, says Mr. Anderson. When do you think we NUFC TV, Ross? I'm not sure what that means, Roger. You'll have to resend that one, I'm afraid. Geordie Toomba Live says, who does Ross think will go down this season? Some big clubs at the bottom. It's funny, I was talking about this at the weekend, and wow. I mean, ultimately, that league table at the moment is tight after the recent round of results. It's going to be a difficult one to call again, Ross. I'm just glad that we're nowhere near it.
I know it's good that Newcastle aren't in the picture this year, isn't it? For the first time in a few seasons, I think Wolves at the minute look to be in a little bit of bother. Forest obviously had a fantastic win at the weekend, and if they can gel, you just never know. But I still think they will be in trouble. Leeds are going to have to do something about either the manager situation or in the kind of the break. They could be another one in a bit of bother. Bournemouth, I know they've been okay in recent weeks and had some decent results, but I can't see them getting out of that relegation battle. It's going to be a real kind of tough one to call. Southampton is another one who I kind of tip Southampton to go down every year, and Ralph Hasenhüttl just seems to be permanently on the verge of getting sacked, and then pulls out a result every now and again to keep the job going. And by February, March, then they seem to be all right, and then they fall away again. So yeah, Southampton will probably be in and around there as well, but I think there'll be a good 6 or 7 clubs potentially.
Yeah, fixture changes. For those of you who haven't seen them already, Leicester's now been moved on Boxing Day to a 3 o'clock kickoff. It's on Prime. Leeds United at home on New Year's Eve is 3 o'clock kickoff now. And the Arsenal game, this one really annoying for Newcastle fans, has now been moved to an 8 o'clock at Sky on the 3rd, which means an overnight stay or getting buses back or driving back late at night. Absolutely crazy, really. So no consideration once again from the TV companies with regards to Newcastle United supporters travelling. The TV channel thing, I think that Roger's making a point about is just NUFC TV. We see it at other clubs, Ross, where Liverpool TV, Manchester TV, they're available on Virgin, Sky, other network providers. Is that something? Do you think that the club will go down that kind of avenue at some point?
Yeah, I think they probably will. Yeah, I mean, I don't know for certain, but I'd be massively surprised if they don't. Clubs nowadays are wanting to keep so much of their content in house, and they want it on their own platforms, from a commercial and an advertising and a revenue, but also to kind of sometimes to control the story and the narrative and the information that's coming out. I think as the club grows, it'll certainly be a platform that I'd expect them to look into, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree, mate. I think that will definitely happen, 100%. Okay, Newcastle are going to play Aston Villa in their next game, and it is a 3 o'clock kickoff, good old-fashioned 3 o'clock kickoff at St James's Park. And since the infamous 3-0 loss in April, this is on NUFC.com, which is in 2005, that saw United end the game with just 8 men on the field, Villa have failed to win any of their 14 visits to St James's Park. So Eddie Howe's side are going into the game unbeaten in their last 7 Premier League home fixtures. And since he took over, Newcastle have lost just twice in 20 Premier League games at St James's Park. Early injury updates. Well, the sick list currently extends to Alexander Isak, Carl Darlow, ASM, Matt Ritchie, and Paul Dummett. We've already mentioned it on the show today, but Unai Emery has been confirmed as Villa's new manager, but he won't officially take his place in the dugout until the 1st of November due to work permit delays. And ahead of their visit to St James's Park, the Villa players celebrated the departure of Steven Gerrard by winning a game. They beat Brentford 4-0 at home on Sunday. That is their first Premier League victory in 5 games. Their away record this season after 6 games reads lost 4, drawn 2, and won 0. They scored 3 goals and they've let in 11 on their travels so far. Referee and VAR yet to be confirmed. And I'll give all the travel updates, etc., as we get a little bit closer to the game. So there were a few questions about this. Kenny says, do you think our next game will be a tough one with the new manager bounce? Roger also says, will Villa be harder now after they got the manager, albeit he's not formally starting until the 1st of November? What's your thoughts then on this game? I mean, every game is difficult in the Premier League, Ross.
It is. Yeah, I don't think it would have been an easy game either way. It probably would have been slightly easier if Villa hadn't sacked Steven Gerrard yet, and he was maybe they were maybe in the doldrums a little bit still, and they were struggling for form. I think it's a tough game. I think Villa are. I understand why the antagonism between Newcastle and Villa. I completely understand that, and I've been a Villa Park and on occasions and being around Villa and Newcastle fans and to understand it completely. But I think Villa are a proper club. I think they're a good sized club. They're a club who've got ambition and who want to kind of challenge at the top again. Eventually, that might take a little bit of time to get there, but they're what I call a kind of a proper club. I think they've got some good players. They're just a little bit maybe gun shy, which sounds strange given that they've just pumped 4 past Brentford. But one of their problems has been a lack of goals and a lack of creativity in that final third, even though they've got some decent players. So they'll be on a high going into the game now after beating Brentford. How will the manager situation play out? Will that give them an added boost? I don't know. But will it be a bit of a distraction? I don't know. What I do know, though, is that if Newcastle play at their best, if Newcastle play at the levels that we've seen them play over the last 4, 5, 6 games, then they should be there should be no fears of taking on Villa. They should go into the game full of confidence themselves and fully confident of getting 3 points.
Yeah, Tom Dixon wants to know what your prediction is for the game.
Oh, good one. Difficult one. I got the prediction right against Everton as well, didn't I, Steve, last time I was on?
You did, yeah.
1-0, right? I think I'll have to give myself a little pat on the back for that one, right? See, there's nobody else was going to mention it, but I'll give myself a pat on the back. I'm going to go for, I think it's going to be tight. I'm going to go for a 1-1 each draw.
1-1, okay. I'll make my my prediction a little bit later. Alan's got another question. He says, Ross, I go on a lot of podcasts, and one thing that stands out is the sheer fear amongst the big six that Newcastle are coming. As a journalist, do you sense it in the press, and is it great?
Yeah, I think from a journalistic point of view, it's nice just to be included in these conversations. It's nice to be able to have these debates and these questions about the challenge for the top 4, the challenge for the top 6. There's a definite those clubs at the top end, that top 6. We all know what's happened around the takeover and some of the stuff that will probably still end up coming out at some point. We don't really need to go over old ground on that. So, but what I would say is that Newcastle are perceived as a threat around the rest of the country. Speaking to various journalists around, I've got a lot of a lot of journalists I know who cover and support different clubs in that top 6, and they are now all looking at Newcastle and talking about Newcastle as being a threat to the kind of the establishment, if you like, which is great from a Newcastle perspective. I think it's good for the Premier League as well to having somebody else challenging the elite, and long may it continue.
Yeah, long may it continue. Don't forget to hit the thumb up to like the video, and it is free, and it does help the channel grow. And the stat that I noticed last week, and I did mention it last week, but I will mention it again, is 50% who watch the channel haven't subscribed. If you do subscribe, we'll hit the 50,000 this year. So if you are sitting at home and you're not technically able to do it while you're watching it, because I know a lot of people watch it on the TV, get on your mobile phone, search for this particular podcast and UFC Matters on YouTube, and just hit that little subscribe button. It's free, costs you nothing. You don't have to register or anything. Just hit that subscribe button. It does help us massively. And let's try and get to 50,000. We've added 100 plus in the last couple of weeks. A lot of people promoting it, thanks to Tom and thanks to Paul Gallant, etc., who do it on a regular basis on here, push it. So please keep doing that. It'll be lovely to get to 50,000 before the end of the year, because we've got a great community on here. Big happy birthday to Mick Mahoney, super goalie, la 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 la. Mick Mahoney, I've pinned the interview that I did with Mick last year to the top of the chat. So if you look for something to watch, you've got a bit of spare time today. It's only an hour long. Go and watch that interview with Mick. Happy birthday, Mick. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. And don't forget the Food Bank t-shirt, the shirt that Peter Beardsley wore at the Legends game a couple of weeks ago for the Food Bank. Is up for grabs on my Twitter at Steve Wraith. Give us a follow, place a bid underneath, and you could be the lucky winner of Peter Beardsley's match-worn shirt. Just give us a quick name check of where people can find anything and everything Ross Gregory, please.
Yeah, so you can get me on Twitter at RossGregory9. I'm also doing bits and pieces for the Chronicle as well. I've got to hopefully pull together an article on the stadium, naming rights, views from fans. If anybody wants to get in touch with a view on what they'd like to see happen with St James's, whether they'd want to move to a new ground or stay put, what they think about naming rights and all that, they can drop me a DM on Twitter as well, and hopefully that article will be out and about soon.
Ross, as always, great stuff. It's going to be a bit sporadic over the next couple of weeks with me filming, but I will be in touch and we'll sort one out for next week. I know next week is fine. Don't forget as well, Geordie's here. Geordie's there is tomorrow night. Slightly later time is 6:30. It's a pre-recorded show though tomorrow night. Pre-recorded. I'm back live on Thursday with Super Mac and Gibbo. Ross, for now, take care, mate. Speak to you soon.
Thanks a lot.